Okay, so we're going to be going over percent of change, which is page 47 in your packet. So open up to page 47, and we're going to go over percent of change. Now, percent of change is change over original equals percent over 100. It's a part-to-part ratio that we have been working on. So I want you, whenever you get the problem, if it's a word problem or if it's just given to you like this, you identify the original, you identify the new, and you figure out the change. The change is the difference between the old and the new. You always take the bigger number and subtract the smaller number. So this change is 49. Okay, so the change is 49. So I put the change, 49, over the original, which is 140, and set that equal to x over 100 to find the percent of change. I use my cross product rule and say 140x equals 4,900. And then I divide both sides by 140. And I get x equals 35%. So this is a 35% increase. And let's think about why we know it's an increase. If the price was originally 140 and now it's 189, that's an increase, right? So just logically decide whether it's a percent increase or decrease. So let's look at the next one. And the next one has original of 70, new of 59. So obviously this is going to be a percent decrease because it's going down. I subtract 59.5 from 70. I get 10.5. That's my change. I put my change over my original equals x over 100. And I say 70x equals, and I do 100 times 10.5, which is 1050. Divide by 70, divide by 70, and x equals 15%. And we know this one is a decrease. And again, how do I know it's a decrease? Because my price went down. That's decreasing. Okay, so now I want you to try the next two on your own. Actually, next three. Do the next three on your own. And after you're done, turn the video back on and see if you got it right. Okay, so I'm assuming you're putting the video back on because you did these problems. See if you get the same answer as me. I have 14 over 35 equals x over 100, and that's a 40% increase. For this one, my change is 42. So I have 42 over 120 equals x over 100. And that's a 35% decrease. And for this one, this is 113.9 is the difference. So 113.9 over 170 equals x over 100. And rounded, this is a 67% increase. Okay, so now let's turn the page and we're going to go over some other types of percent increase problems, percent decrease, percent of change. So turn to page 48. And here we're going to increase 12 by 25%. Now that doesn't mean take 12 and add 25%, because that would be 12.25. That's not what it means at all. The problem is the way we say things in English. When we say increase 12 by 25%, we mean by 25% of 12. So when we do this, first we have to figure out what is 25% of 12. So 25% of 12, we could figure out this way. And we figure out that 25% of 12 is 3. So that means take 12 and increase it by 3, and we get 15. Now, another way to do this is you could just say start with 12 and add 25% of 12, and that would give you 15. And another way to do it is if you're increasing by 25%, then what you're really saying is what is 125% of 12? And that's a way you can get your answer of 15 sort of in one step. So those are all different ways you can do this. Now let's look at the next one. This says decrease 20 by 40%, and we know that means of 20. So I could say take 20, subtract 40% of 20. Well, 40% of 20 is 8. So 20 minus 8 is 12. That's one way to do the problem. I could figure out 40% of 20 by using this proportion to find out that it's 8. Or I could say, well, if I'm decreasing by 40%, I'm really trying to figure out what 60% of 20 is, and that's another way to set up the problem. So I know sometimes it's confusing when you have 3 different ways, but you choose whichever method makes most sense to you. So now go ahead and do 8, 9, 10, and 11. Do that, and when you're done with those, stop the recording now, turn it back on, and I will go over them to make sure you have the right answer. Okay, so if you're listening again, hopefully you did this on your own. This says increase 78 by 80%. So I can take 78 plus 80% of 78. And that ends up being 140.4. Or another way of thinking of it is if I'm increasing it by 80%, I want to know what 180% of 78 is, and I will get the same answer. Now, number 9, decrease 108 by 90%. So I take 108 and I subtract 90% of 108. Or if I subtract 90%, I'm really looking for what's 10% of 108. And regardless of how you do it, the answer is 10.8. The final answer is 10.8. Okay. Number 10 says your new car is $14,500. The car's value will depreciate by 15%. Find the value of the car after 1 year. So that means I find 15% of 14,500 and subtract it. So one way to do it is just say, what is 15% of 14,500? I wrote that wrong. Give me a second. So I'm looking to find out what 15% of 14,500 is, and that would be 2,175. I take 14,500 and subtract that. My answer is 12,325. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to say 14,500 minus 15% of 14,500. We'll get the same answer. And a final way of doing it is saying if you're decreasing by 15%, just say what is 85% of 14,500. Okay, and the last one says I bought my house in 1993 for $235,000. I could sell it now for $650,000. What is the percent of change? So I set up old, new, change The old is 235, the new is 650, the change is 415. So I do change over original equals X over 100. And if I round my percentage, it's 177% increase. Okay, so we're going to stop this video and you're going to listen to another one where I go over pages 49 and 50.